Good evening, everybody. It's 19th of January, MLK Day, and this is Spencer Keck with the Hillbilly Think Tank. I am the educated hillbilly, and no, that is not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. Y'all, I'm coming at you live from Tunnel Hills in Hardin County, Kentucky, and I still today, am really just contemplating everything I've seen in my lifetime when it comes to civil rights, all the rights that are guaranteed us in the Constitution and the amendments to the Constitution, especially our amendments, 1 through 15. Um, and I'm just amazed that we, at this point in our history, seem to be intent on taking steps backwards. Martin Luther King's dream, to me, was really on a trajectory that it should have been. When I joined the military in 1990, really had experiences in the first Gulf War that made me rethink and evaluate and really determine what my views were when it came to racial relations, religious relations. I just realized, we're all just folks trying to make a living. And I started judging people according to their character rather than their skin color or if they had the same religion as I do or not. And that was what serving in the military did for me all the way until I retired, 2014, from 1990 to 2014. Best lessons I could ever have on what it means to be a man, what it means to be a service man, service woman, what it means to really give to your nation. And I learned it didn't matter what skin color you had. Some folks that are white serving actually hate our nation. They're just getting a paycheck. Same as some black folks I knew. Really didn't respect the nation, just were getting a paycheck. But then I knew folks, for the majority, those of us that served, we were there because when we not only loved our country, we would do anything for our country, including giving our life. So it wasn't just a paycheck. So here we are, and all of Martin Luther King's dream that I saw come to fruition, at least coming to fruition, happened in the military. We had generals that were African American, Hispanic, you name it, served under officers that were men, women. Turned out later in my career, folks that have been serving in the closet for years and were actually gay or lesbian, hey, they got to come out and like, oh, really? I never knew that you were that persuasion, but did it ever matter? No. You did a darn good job. You were a great leader. You treated us great. You treated us with respect, regardless of who we were. Doesn't matter now, and it really didn't matter then. Once we got rid of the don't ask, don't tell policy, one of the greatest days in America, one of the greatest days in our military. People that had been serving but were afraid of being kicked out because of the person that they loved being the same with, if they were lesbians or if they were gays, now they finally were able to be themselves proudly, happily, and serve the nation with full honor, not with fear of being kicked out. One of the saddest times of my life is when I was in hospital corps training in Great Lakes, Illinois. And one of my classmates, she was sexually assaulted. I never could figure out why she did not turn the person in who assaulted her. Didn't even announce it that it happened. She told me the story. It wasn't until later, when we were in the same duty station together, she came to me one day and said, "Hey, I guess you know that I'm a lesbian." I'm like, "No, I didn't know." I'd heard some rumors, but I didn't give a crap about rumors. But she was one of the best corpsmen I knew. She cared for her patients, gave everything she could to make sure that they were healthy, they got better, they were treated with the most respect and dignity and honor that could be given to anybody that came to her hospital ward. And she was treated as if she was a worthless piece of crap. One of the nurse corps officers sicked the Naval Investigative Services on her. A year or two after this case, it was changed to NCIS, which they make the stupid TV show about. But those guys, once they were sick on her, they hounded her day in, day out when she was off duty, would not stop trying to catch her being who she was for real. She went so far as to get a beard. I guess, a guy who was willing to set up a fake relationship as if they were, male and female companions. Can't remember if she went so far as to get married. I think she was in the process possibly of getting a fake marriage too. But finally, she just had enough. NCIS had infiltrated everything she cared about, was harassing people that she cared about. And finally, she just went and said, "Yes, I am a lesbian." And they kicked her out on a dishonorable discharge. What a disservice to her and to our nation. Lost the care of a really caring person, a great hospital corpsman. So that was when I started realizing what bullshit this whole thing was. And I've been raised in that hatred of people like that. But that was the end of it for me. So, that's once we abolished that law, that's when I started seeing, man, the American dream is alive and well in the U.S. military. I had a commanding officer of one of my last ships, or my very last ship. He came out. He didn't come out to us, but once he retired, during that period, he came out as who he truly was, and I never ever looked down on him for that. He was one of the best leaders I ever knew. Treated people fairly anytime that they were up for non-judicial punishment. As a matter of fact, I used to think before the law was passed, I used to wonder, why is this guy too fair to people? Something like that person could have had a real smackdown, and he didn't do it in the non-judicial punishment. Later, when I realized, hey, he was closeted gay man right before the law was turned over and he was allowed to serve freely as a gay person. But once I realized what it was, I'm like, he's been mistreated. He's always been on edge, and he's making sure he never treats anyone unfairly. He'd rather err on the cautious side rather than smacking someone down into the dirt just because he could, because he had that power. That was an awesome leader. It didn't matter what his persuasion was. He was a great leader. So I looked at that. So, man, this American dream and this dream that Martin Luther King had, they're really becoming one and the same now. If you're in the military, you truly can give everything you've got, and 8 or 9 times out of 10, you can go to the top if you've got the wherewithal. So that was part of my military experience. But just learned a lot about brotherhood of man and women, the mankind from the military. Learned that we were all just doing anything we could to make sure our nation was safe, that we did the best work possible for our nation, and that when you go to sleep at night, you could sleep securely with the knowledge that we were on guard. We were the sheepdogs of democracy. What has happened? We have a leader of the Department of Defense. I refuse to call it by the so-called new name, which Congress hadn't approved, so it's not the real name. Current leader, Whiskey Pete Kegsbreath, is doing everything he can to turn back the clock, to go back to the days of white supremacy in the military, to go back to the days of anybody in the LGBTQ community being terrified to serve in our nation. That's just not at all what I signed up for and what I retired proudly as a part of. So, Martin Luther King, so sorry. At least we got to see your dream for a little bit. But what we're seeing now, man, it's taking us right back to the days when you were urging us all to be our better selves, to be our better angels. Let's all get back to it. What is wrong with us? What is wrong that we don't have the people standing up against tyranny, standing up against oligarchy? Are we all really happy with what we're seeing, way our neighbors are being treated? I really take to heart, love your neighbors as yourself. That means a lot to me. I really believe that all veterans should be treated with dignity and honor, especially the combat veterans who are disabled, and that our Congress should quit defunding the VA, defunding care for veterans. Because we're calling on them all the time to do things that no one else is willing to do. I think that we should fund education for all. That's what makes us great when we do it, when we've done it. But yet we're number 39 now in education in the world. That just makes us more of a laughing stock. We should be number one. We have some of the greatest minds in this country. Why aren't we unleashing them in education? Why aren't we making it to where it's just as honorable as far as status goes in the community to be a teacher as it is to be a doctor or a lawyer? We need more people willing to do anything they can to help the young folks of our nation become the great thinkers, the great innovators, the great inventors that we have been for so long, but now we're falling behind in that. So, wow. Yes, let's bring back the American dream. That's all I'm asking for. Bring back the American dream. Let's end this American nightmare, this America where we can't stand to coexist with people that are different than us. This isn't what we were founded upon, what we built upon. We might have started in we had Eventually, slavery came along, but we got rid of it. We keep building to become better and better and better. Worked our way to an amazing dream. Now we want to go back to a nightmare? This isn't working for anybody but the richest of the rich. And this is to keep us from looking at the Epstein files, from looking at the billionaire class and what they do to our sons and daughters. Not only do they give a crap if they sacrifice us for oil overseas, they want to do that while at the same time sacrificing our young daughters to places like Epstein Island. If we don't stop this one, there's going to be so many more. And they're going to be so emboldened because they know the guardians of the pedophile, the GOP, will be there for them every single time. They'll pay less taxes than we do as working class and middle class, and they'll get away with anything that they can. Hey, if that's your dream, that's your American dream, boy, I don't know what you studied when you were in school, or did you sleep through class? All right, y'all. Remember, united we stand, and divided we fall in Kentucky. And we can't be divided if we're loving our neighbors as ourselves. We are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper. I'm running for magistrate in Hardin County's 3rd District. Love to have your vote. I'd love to have the American dream live and well here in Hardin County. Let's demand that the Carl Brashear Veteran Center there in Radcliffe be funded the way that it should, so that all the veterans, no matter who they are, but especially if they look like the namesake of that center, Carl Brashear, that we're all treated with honor and dignity, and that there's enough beds there for me when I am old and need someone to wipe my ass, and I don't want my 4 children to have to do that. I gave all. Just give me something like that at the end of my life. That's my simple American dream, to not be a burden to my kids after all they put up with me being away for years, defending this nation in some of the hottest, most dangerous places on the earth. Thank y'all. I hope you had a blessed MLK Day. Okay. Did you get trail in the cup?